How to repair show will start soon. Say your questions. Grab a drink. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, what a day, and what a difference a day makes. I've been up here on the mountains and fixing the van, as you all know. I'm at Skellig's Head, overlooking a couple of islands, and I've actually been doing repairs on the van. Yet again, this van has let me down. But, you know, as they say, shit happens and you have to rectify it. I'm quickly going to explain what's happening today. I have a guest who I helped out with his heat pump tumble dryer. I've also dealt with Stuart, and he had a dishwasher problem, and I spent half hour on the phone with him helping out there. We've got a little problem with his dishwasher. He needs to find out first if the voltage is going through to the pump. He's had two types of pumps fitted. One was a 50 volt pump and the other was a 240 volt pump. So we've got a guest today, but also I think it was Mike sent us an email in, and also about the new regulations that are coming into play in Europe with the right to repair. And there's a lot of good news for the Europeans. But the big problem here is it makes a mockery of Britain, because the new legislation does not affect us yet. And it seems like our politicians are not doing enough about these things. But firstly, let me show you the difference between having a heat wave and having horrid weather. You saw this yesterday, and it was a lovely day. I could see out to the islands, and I can't see nothing at all today. Oh, by the way, the repair that I done on the van, and if I could just slide this under, I don't know if you can see because this is the laptop, but basically what's happened here is I've managed to get a patch on to the drive shaft end, and I'm going to shut the door because I've had to put big boy's trousers on because it's got absolutely cold here. But the drive shaft, I managed to get a puncture repair kit onto it. So I managed to inject it with grease. I've done a video for you to show anyone that wants to see that in the future, how to repair a boot. And we're going to be testing it over the next couple of thousand miles as I go down through, or go up through Ireland and then down to my workshop in South Wales after visiting a lot of the partners along the way. So anyway, that's all taken care. Now, a lot of people have been talking about AI, and when I was speaking to Stuart today, I was explaining how good AI can be at finding some problems. It's not always the best, but on some occasions, it really does come up with good information. And he was trying to find a reset system to clear the error code, which I believe he had a 23 error code on his dishwasher. It's related to not emptying, I believe, and he might have to clear the error code before the machine works. So he's investigating that at the moment, and I'll keep you updated on that. But Mike sent in this new legislation. Now, you know I'm dyslexic. You know I have problems reading scripts and everything else. So we've done something very clever, and it's going to prove two things. You've got used to hearing my horrid voice and my ugly face, but what I want to show you now is the new legislation that's come in. Now, Burkeye is going to leave my ugly face on the screen so you get a response from me personally. But this script that's going to be read now in a second, and I'll tell Burkeye when to actually start this. This is the German transcript translated via AI. Also, it is a voice replica of me. Now, you can hear me now. Listen to this. It's only 3 minutes long, and we'll discuss all the problems between the difference between German legislation, which is being introduced in the UK, in Europe, but this legislation does not apply to the UK yet. And I want to show you how far behind we are. It seems like our politicians are letting us down and allowing these manufacturers just to keep counting the money that they are gaining from not having this type of legislation in England. So, Burkeye, would you play the script for me, please?
The Bundestag is requiring manufacturers of numerous electrical appliances to repair damaged products during their normal lifespan. This is intended to save a great deal of waste and money for consumers. Is your mobile phone or vacuum cleaner broken? Until now, the usual solution was to buy a new one. To ensure such electrical appliances are used for longer in the future, consumers in Germany are being granted a right to repair. The Bundestag passed this measure, thereby implementing an initiative adopted by the European Union. The new law obliges manufacturers to repair their products at a reasonable price during their typical lifespan, independent of the standard product warranty. Furthermore, future devices must be designed in a way that allows for repairs. Consequently, installing a battery in a way that makes replacement impossible would violate the new law. The new regulation also offers incentives for consumers. If they choose to repair a defective device rather than replace it, the existing statutory warranty period is extended by 12 months. Bitkom, the Industry Association for Information Technology and Telecommunications, has praised the benefits for both consumers and the environment. Using a smartphone, tablet, or laptop for longer saves money, prevents electronic waste, and conserves resources, said Bitkom CEO Bernhard Rohleder. The Federation of German Consumer Organizations, VZBV, also welcomes the new regulation, though it additionally calls for a manufacturer-funded repair bonus to make repairing items more attractive overall. Scheduled to come into force this summer, the new law threatens to impose a significant additional administrative burden on companies. For instance, they will be required to stock spare parts for their products for years after the last unit has been placed on the market. The duration depends on the product's expected lifespan. For smartphones, this means that all components making up the device must remain available for at least 7 years after production of the model has ceased. Manufacturers of washing machines and dryers are subject to this obligation for a period of 10 years following the end of production. If, for example, a washing machine spin cycle fails after 8 years, the buyer can demand that the manufacturer repair the machine either free of charge or at a reasonable price. If the buyer chooses to engage a different repair service, the manufacturer must provide spare parts at a reasonable price. Under the new law, the business must carry out the repair within a reasonable time frame. They may provide the consumer with a replacement product free of charge for the duration of the repair. According to the EU directive, the new rules are set to apply to the following devices: washing machines, tumble dryers, washer dryers, household dishwashers, refrigeration appliances, welding equipment, vacuum cleaners, servers, data storage products, mobile phones, printers, tablets, computers without keyboards, so-called slate tablets, cordless phones, e-scooters, and e-bikes. The new regulation is scheduled to be implemented by July 31st of this year at the latest, meaning it will come into force this summer. If the draft legislation passes the Bundesrat in time, the right to demand a repair from the manufacturer would also apply to devices purchased prior to that date. In contrast, the obligation to manufacture repairable devices and the extension of the warranty period are intended to apply only to devices purchased on or after July 31st. Business representatives have previously voiced sharp criticism of the legislation. The Association of German Chambers of Commerce and Industry, DIHK, for instance, complained that unclear wording threatened to create legal uncertainty and that companies would face requirements that are hardly feasible in practice.
Well, there you go. Berkay will put a link so you can read this legislation yourself. I would like to thank Mike for sending this in because it's only just being implemented at the moment. And it shows you the problems we have in the UK with our politicians today. They just only seem to be caring about the consumption and not caring about the consumer. And I really think we need to be discussing this with politicians at some point. But as you all know, although the built-in obsolescence videos have had over 10 million views combined with them, not one manufacturer nor one politician has come to the table and were willing to answer any questions on it. They seem to accept it just for the sake of consumption and don't give a flying beep about our planet and also the end users. So anyway, that all said, have we got any questions, Berkay, before we introduce Eksteen?
Yes, mate. We have 3 for today.
Okay, if you want to pop one on now, and then we'll speak to Eksteen with regards how he solved his problem. It's much clearer today. Even I can read that, but I know you've made an audio script, so let a dyslexia person get away with the auto if you've got one there.
Yes, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Appliance Hotpoint HO168HT0 SXUK cooker oven. I'm getting in touch to ask whether it is possible to buy a good, reliable built-in single oven directly from you. I had an Amica oven that sadly broke after only 7 years of use. The LCD display failed and I couldn't find spare parts. I purchased a Hotpoint oven at the end of August 2025, but I find it very disappointing. I bake sourdough bread on a regular basis. My old Amica did the job perfectly in under 30 minutes, but this new oven is not great. I started preheating the oven with a Dutch oven inside. This gives a slightly better result, but the bread still does not rise as well as it did in the Amica. To my surprise, even a simple sponge cake comes out flat once baked. I watched some of your YouTube videos about how ovens are built and their possible faults, but I ended up having more questions than answers. Is there any way you could help or advise me, please? Thank you kindly for taking the time to read my message.
Okay, well, the screen went a bit blurred. It was very sharp at the beginning. Firstly, I think modern ovens today are relying too much on modern electronics, and they're introducing circuit boards with NTC sensors to control the temperature. An oven is not a complicated item, and nor does it need to be complicated. You require a grill element, a fan oven element, and depending on how good you are at cooking, and I'm not the best in the world, I'm great at fixing them, but not cooking. I don't use an oven that much because I'm always doing things like chili con carnes, spaghetti bolognese, and I'm always frying a good steak. So I use a air fryer, I use a Ninja. But I was being very disappointed with Ninja because they circumvent the Right to Repair Act because they are not classed as this. They're not classed the same as washing machines and conventional cookers. Therefore, they circumvent it by not having to supply spare parts for these machines and even not making it accessible to access the spare parts. So when buying a cooker, although I say this on every show, firstly, you should not buy in today's world any appliance that does not come with a full 5-year parts and labour. Secondly, when it comes to buying an oven, remember that there are normally at least 2 or 3 elements in the oven. But more importantly than any of this, make sure you buy one with a conventional thermostat and a conventional selector switch. A timer is definitely useful, and you can get basic timers that either have a 3-button or 6-button configuration. They will also start cooking at certain times and stop cooking at certain times. This is very useful for certain types of family household. But when it comes to the actual longevity of the machine, make sure you keep it simple. It does not need to be complicated. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't even, and I'm hopeless at saying this word, pyrogenic, which is the self-cleaning cookers. I'm not a fan of them, because when the panels that have the special coating on start to not become as good as they used to be, I have seen a lot of these starting to flake, and there is possibility that those flakes could end up in the actual food material. So I hope I answered that question for you. There are lots of great cooker manufacturers out there, but I would really focus on making sure you find one that is suitable for you with regards to the functionality, and number 2, try to make sure that you are always getting a full 5-year parts and labor. And the reason I say this, working as a community, our money is going to dictate to these manufacturers what we want. And if a manufacturer is getting away with only sticking a 12-month warranty on a machine, by boycotting them, we are going to force this industry to change. I hope that answers your question. Right, we have a guest today, and hopefully I'm going to pronounce his name correctly. He had a heat pump tumble dryer, and he had a problem with his machine. And Eksteen, he's South African originally, but he now lives in Holland. Good afternoon to you, Eksteen. Well, I hear you made one of the greatest errors on your heat pump tumble dryer ever. And that might have been because you didn't do the obvious. Sorry? I didn't hear you then, sorry. Eksteen, can you hear us? We might have a little bit of delay. Eksteen, can you hear us? We'll give it a couple of seconds. Hopefully it works. Eksteen, are you hearing us? No, Berkay, are you able to communicate with him?
I think he can hear us, but maybe some sort of glitch or play.
I can't see his lips moving. I can see him moving, but I can't hear him. No, I think he might have problems at his end. Firstly, I'd like to make you aware that Ecamm did have some problems today, which is the tool that we're using. We did do an audio check earlier and everything was functioning correctly. And I do know the people at Ecamm have, been solving the problem. But of course, all technical stuff does have a problem occasionally. So I'll give Eksteen one last chance if he can hear us or not. And I don't think he can. No, he looks mystified on his end, and I don't know why. So, Berkay, bring up the other questions and we'll see if he can come back to us later. And I will tell him to log out. Or, matter of fact, Berkay, could you ask him to log out and log back in? Because he may have a problem on his side.
Okay, mate. On it.
And pop up another question while you're doing this. I can't see the question. It's fallen behind. There we go. I can't read that, so just play that one. It's a Samsung, I believe, but I can't read anything else.
Yes, it is Samsung, and that's why I'm here.
Okay.
Appliance, Samsung Eco Bubble Washing Machine, 04Q15 ESJ500504V. Hi there. Part of the seal in the drum/door tore during a wash. I have ordered a new seal, but I have a major space issue. I have a tumble dryer stacked on top of the washing machine. Due to a building fault, the machines are too wide to come out of the room they are in. The floor space is too small to take the dryer off and put it on the floor. Because of this, I cannot take the top panel off the washing machine. I am really hoping you can advise me. Is it possible to replace the seal entirely through the front door without taking the top off? Thank you.
Well, that is definitely a dilemma. The builder building a door by the sound of it after the appliances are in there. Yeah, hindsight is a brilliant thing. Oh, crikey Moses. It is, well, it all depends if it has a recirculation pump tube either attached on the Samsung at the top of the machine, or if it has a drain down hose attached to the door seal at the bottom of the machine. This is a huge dilemma for you. God, I don't know how much clearance you have on top of the dryer, meaning how much roof space you have. Because if you got some very strong people in who would be able to lift the tumble dryer off the washing machine and maybe put it a good foot or so above, and then somehow either get some sort of support in to hold the weight, you might be able to jack that tumble dryer up to the ceiling, and then you would be able to do some work on the machine. It sounds like you've got a real problem when it comes to space in that room. So really speaking, you need to remove the front panel to do the job properly, because if there is counterweight balances on the front of the machine, it is going to be very, very difficult with your fingers to get the retaining band on. Plus, you actually have to connect the fill pipe, the recirculation pipe if fitted, or a drain down pipe if fitted. You've got a bit of a dilemma here, and I don't know, without actually seeing the space that you've got. And as I say to everyone in the show, it is really helpful if you have a problem like this to upload a short video to your own YouTube account. And when sending the question in via YouTube or even via email through our website, give us the link to that video, and then I can have a look at the exact problem you have and maybe give you some sort of solution, because I'm able to see the situation it's in. Really, if you send your telephone number in, I will try and help. I've helped a few people recently with regards getting, how can I describe it? Doing WhatsApp telephone calls. Eksteen, who was on a second ago but has got communication problems, he might be rejoining us. A guy in Spain contacted us. I helped him the other day. And I also had a video telephone call today with Stuart, who had a problem with his dishwasher. And I've been helping all these people while I'm traveling. So let's see what happens, and let's have a look in real time at the problem, and maybe I can come up with a solution. But I would really be shouting at your builders, how are you ever going to replace the machine if you have got your two new machines sealed in there? Remember, they usually are a little narrower going from front to back than they are from side to side. So hopefully you might be able to turn the machine side on and then it goes through the door. I hope that helps you. Burkay, did we get Eksteen back, or is he
Yes,
still
mate.
not available?
Yes, mate, we fixed the problem. And also, we have a comment
Okay.
from Jill. Maybe you want to reply to it.
Okay, fire it up. You might have to read it to me because I've got a very blurry screen at this end today. I can't see. Oh, here we go. Oh, Jill, how are you doing, lovely? I'd have him check his audio output. Doesn't look like he can hear the feed. If joining through Zoom, he'll have to check his audio output. Well, Jill, I know you're one of the eCam crew and you have been helping us through multiple problems. I'd like to thank Paul as well, Paul Duncan, who works for eCam as well. They really have stepped up to the mark, and they're in a totally different time zone. They're in the States, so it must be early morning for them or late afternoon. Anyway, it'll be a different time zone. But I really do appreciate the help that you've done today, because you knew we had a guest coming on. And I'd like to thank you for that, and the twins for trying to rectify the problem that they had. They've gone above and beyond with regards trying to keep the whole eCam community going when, you know, technical problems happen. Technical problems happen on washing machines. That's why we're here at the end of the day. Anyway, let's bring on Eksteen and let him tell us about his problem with his heat pump tumble dryer.
All right, mate. And also, she says, love your content.
Thank you very much, Jill. Okay, we got you back live.
Yeah,
Excellent.
well, there we go. That's a bit better.
Okay, technical shit happens. I mean, people think that we're all sat in the same room. Let me explain to everyone before we start. My editor is in Izmir in Turkey. Now, because his boss hasn't bought him the right equipment, which he keeps nagging about, he does have an old computer. He does have an old computer, which I will be upgrading because I'm fed up of hearing him nag. He's like an old woman. Yeah. And basically he needs new equipment, which I will be getting him and taking out to Turkey when I go over there in a month or so's time. I'm actually working from the van today. I'm meant to be in Dingle having a night out on a Friday and a few Guinnesses. But I've had technical problems myself, and I had to answer a lot of questions today, helping people out. As I said, I've been helping Stuart. I've been helping another guy in Spain who I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce his name. And I've also been helping Eksteen in Holland, although you've got a South African accent. So, look, I'm not going to embarrass you. I know you've had, should we say, you've sent a few questions in trying to be resolving the problem to your, what was the error code that you had on your heat pump tumble dryer?
No, it started off with a washing machine that packed up with the E20 code, and then a week later, the dryer I thought had packed up because it didn't dry properly.
Right, and this is a heat pump dryer, yeah?
As a heat pump dryer. So I basically took ChatGPT to task and said, okay, so how are we going to fix this? And had long conversations. And the drawback is you get the general average of the internet as an answer. So eventually I got to your videos and went like, okay, here's somebody that seems to be knowing what they're talking about. So that's why I reached out to you. What actually happened is it was a misidentification. There was an icon at the front of the machine that ChatGPT told me was an error. In the meantime, that was not the error. So I spent about 5 days chasing an error that didn't exist. And then eventually we figured out that there's a few things that you can do. One of them was, and you check that the sensors on the inside of the drum was not a problem, because that's
These are the moisture sensors, which I've made a video on in the past. Basically, for anyone that doesn't know, some of the sensor dry tumble dryers have two sensors or two bars inside the machine, and these bars basically read an ohms reading between the two bars. And this, in layman's terms, it basically, the more moisture you have in the machine, I think the higher the the higher the reading will be. As the clothes dry out, the lower the reading. Now, what can happen with these dryers, and a lot of modern tumble dryers have these moisture sensors in, film from printed t-shirts and stuff like that can line the bars, therefore giving a false reading. And sometimes tumble dryers may have a problem with something like that. But anyway, we've dealt with that bit. Explain the problem, because it's a great story. Even I loved it.
And then the
You
next problem
confess.
was
Confess.
yeah, I'll confess. Eventually, it was not the only problem. That's the problem. So I've had a pipe out the back of the washing machine for about 5 years, or as long as I've had it anyway, to obviously take the condensation away. And it unfortunately never properly worked. And I couldn't understand why. But as I was trying to go through all these other troubleshooting steps,
You
and
said
having
washing
half
machine, then Eksteen. It
oh
was the
sorry
tumble
tumble
dryer you
dryer
meant.
tumble
Yeah.
dryer and having halfway disassembled the tumble dryer, I finally realized that the little tray that collects all the moisture has a little plug at the bottom that I hadn't taken out in 5 years. So that's why I kept on having to empty the tray and not getting the water draining down the pipe. So that was problem number one.
Well, what I'd like to say here
So
is you have managed to have the tumble dryer self-emptying into the drainage system, but you left the bung for 5 years. And what has actually happened after each cycle, because you did tell me when we were on a call earlier today, and I asked you, would you mind coming on the show? You did tell me earlier today that you only use the machine roughly about 3 times per week. And the problem was it was actually drying the clothes and condensing all the water into the correct location, but the water had nowhere to go. Now, what was actually happening, the room temperature was evaporating the water over a period of time, allowing you to use the machine. Because if you'd used it like any normal household, which in the UK, for example, would normally have to use a tumble dryer nearly every day, it would have stopped working straight away. And you would have been exceedingly embarrassed when an engineer came out to fix your house and said, why'd you leave the bung in?
well, it's every so often I did have to take out the tray and empty that, but I thought maybe
Oh,
that's
right.
just extra, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I've got a blonde mum. I've got a few excuses, you know. And then with the error code, which wasn't the error code, so that was the other thing. And then eventually it's a case of, okay, so is the lint filters, or maybe that's the issue. So eventually went through cleaning all the lint, replacing some of the lint filters. Didn't solve the error code because the error code was just the icon telling me that it was on a specific cycle. But what we did figure out eventually is that it has an automatic cleaning system, and it runs that every so often. But it needed a deep clean this time around, and that it got halfway stuck in that cycle. So that's why it wasn't drying properly. It was running some air through it, but it wasn't running any heat through it either. So finally managed to trigger that, and then everything worked okay again.
Well, I'm very pleased knowing after having a conversation with you today that you are one of the few people that has had something good to say about their heat pump tumble dryer. Although you are not using it really, I mean, you've been honest and you said you only use it 3 times a week. A lot of people are having problems with the filtration systems on these heat pump tumble dryers. The American machines are working far better, but they take up a lot more real estate, meaning they are much bigger machines. So all this compact heat pump technology that they put into it, they have the space to put better filtration systems in. And the most important thing with all heat pump tumble dryers is to make sure that the filtration system is nearly cleaned after every load. Um, I spoke to a chap the other day. He'd had a heat pump tumble dryer 4 years. It had stopped working. He opened it up to find out there was equivalent fluff inside the machine to make himself a quilt. I mean, he was just astonished how it hadn't caught fire. And the big problem with all heat pump tumble dryers is longevity. And we have got a petition in at the moment in the UK, and we're just waiting for it to be approved. And then I can start publicizing it in the UK. And I don't know if this is active in Holland. In the UK, we have basically the government is banning all vented and condenser tumble dryers and forcing the general public to only have heat pump tumble dryers, which is one of the most ludicrous laws set by officials who don't know what the shit they're talking about. The end of the day, some of these politicians, I don't even think do laundry. They just send it out to be done because they can put it on their company expenses or whatever. The problem is with all politicians today, no one is coming from real world scenarios. They basically come from college after doing whatever qualifications it takes to become one of these muppets. When you consider we have already achieved over 10 million views on our obsolescence videos showing what manufacturers are up to and everything else, you'd think this would be an opportunity for some do-good politician to jump on the bandwagon and actually say, our party's willing to do this, our party's willing to do that. They all shut up and don't say a wink thing, because consumption is good for the economy. And that's all Britain seems to care about at the moment.
I think what's also interesting here in the Netherlands, maybe, I don't know if people know that, is there is a movement for right to repair, and that's sort of running across Europe. But we have in the Netherlands, we had a court case, was about a decade ago, about a fridge. And the court determined that a fridge's running time is 10 years. And that the company that supplied the fridge has to give the person back the remainder of the value of the fridge if they couldn't repair it. And that started a whole new movement. So now it is, for instance, if you now a problem also with a Bosch washing machine 2 weeks earlier, they came out to repair that, and they basically offered me a discount for the remainder of the value to ensure they don't get into any legal problems.
Well, there's been some class action suits. I mean, because you had audio problems when I first brought you, or I brought you on the show, I don't know if you actually heard what my AI reading of the new legislation that was taking place. And Mike sent us in the new legislation, which was at the beginning of the video, if anyone wants to catch it on the rewatch, if you know what I mean. Basically, there is a lot of legislation coming in holding manufacturers responsible, not only for supplying parts, but forcing manufacturers into actually being more responsible and making repairs affordable. Now, this is a key thing here, because so many manufacturers are building machines, but yet building obsolescence into the machines by totally building the pricing structure of the spare parts to make it non-affordable for multiple people to ever even have an attempt to repair their machine. And this is one of the reasons why I have a load of partners joining the How to Repair now with regards scrapping machines correctly. Because as you well know, when a machine goes wrong, it is usually because one expensive component that doesn't make it fair or economical to repair. But having occasionally a second-hand motor, a second-hand door, or something like that changes the scenario completely. Because if a person only has to pay £40 for a motor instead of £200 for a motor, they are going to attempt to repair the machine correctly. And I'm glad, really, and I'm very proud. To be honest, it's on occasions some of the comments that have come in have brought tears to my eyes. But there are small channels like myself, well, not so small anymore. I've managed to beef the channel up to a reasonable level. But there are presenters like Ben's Appliances in America. We've got Fix Part is doing a lot of videos now. We have the Ukrainian guy who is absolutely brilliant, making videos showing people how to repair the machines and honestly saying what is wrong with this industry. Now, we all thought at one point our voices weren't being heard, but when I hear or read the legislation that they've now put in, it gives me confidence that what we are doing is making a difference. And I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
I
But
do.
the thing is, these
Have
things.
you still got the same shirt on, by the way, that you were wearing earlier?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Yeah, that is. Bring it up so everyone can read it. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
And
Burke, I'll put that's from a tooling company, isn't it? That supplies like shelf fillers for whatever you
they're
want
called
to put into
they're
the
called
tool.
Shadow Foam, and they're from the UK.
Shadow foam.
And they're
The UK
provide
company, is it?
foam. Yeah, it's a UK company, and they so basically provide a different color foam in the middle, and the top layer is black, for example. And then as you cut through it, you basically have the shape of whatever device you want to put in there. So I'm using it for my camera equipment, but I'm also using it for my tools at home.
Mentioning camera equipment, when you were showing me your heating system, and I'd love you to take a wander over if you're on mobile, yeah? You haven't had to revert.
Yeah.
Let me explain to
Yeah.
everyone. In Holland, they're a lot more sensible than Britain, shall we say, when it comes to environmental things. Look, all countries, one thing I love about Holland compared to the UK, our electricity companies in the UK give you nearly squat diddly shit in reward for putting solar onto your property. Now, in Holland, you have not only solar, which basically you can go into credit when you produce electricity. And that means off peak or in the winter, you are able to have that electricity either at the full value or discounted rates. But there is also so many incentives with regards heating systems that work, not just the heat pump technology. There's a lot of benefits. I mean, one thing in Holland with vehicles, Holland has V to G technology, which is vehicle to grid. Now, this means that you can charge your car up at work, which may have a solar farm, and supply the members of staff cheap electricity. You can drive home then, plug the car into the house, and discharge to whatever level you are willing to discharge to, meaning that if you only have 20 miles to drive back to work in the morning, you could set it at 30%. Use all the 70% that you went home with to run the house, and then go back to work to get some more free energy. And this is really beneficial. But the UK doesn't do any of this because they are frightened of losing the revenue that is raised for the government. And this is where everything is about consumption today. But anyway, this system that you've got is underfloor heating, and you've got it running with a gas boiler or oil boiler, or what is it?
I've currently got it running with gas. So just a remark, what you're saying is all true about the we deliver back to the electricity companies and we can get a refund, but the government has been subsidizing some of that. So there's actually a bill in Parliament now. They're going to scrap that. So we're going to go back to the dark ages in a way. One side
you
of it.
mean
The other thing
corporations have
is,
got their fingers in? The lobbyists,
it's actually a
not the
subsidy thing.
corporations.
I'm not sure if it's the government not having enough money anymore, because I mean, all governments are running out of money and want to charge us more.
Well, that's because they've been printing it for so long.
It's not going to macroeconomics. But the thing with the gas boilers are there's a subsidy, I think it's still in place in Amsterdam at the moment. And there's some other town councils around the Netherlands as well, that if you want to change, you want to go off gas, they'll give you about 8 grand to do so. And then the moment you're off the gas, you get that money. So it's also to help you go off gas and go onto electricity. So let me just quickly swap this around because you want to see this, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to explain something because a lot of people in Spain and Portugal have, don't say we've lost you. Technology again.
Yes, we lost him.
Anyway, what? Okay, he'll come back on in a second. Let me just explain what we're meaning here. Is solar having something like a gas boiler is great. Yes, it is using carbon fossil fuel, but put in conjunction with something like solar water, we are then able to you may have a winter's day which is -2 outside but beautiful sunshine. Now, even though it's -2, the solar water heating systems would be very beneficial when it comes to, because it's able to take that energy in insulated panels, pump that energy to your underfloor heating or whatever you have, and then it is basically offsetting the carbon footprint that the gas boiler produces. And you can also do this with solar electrical panels as well. But because most heating systems in households are either oil or gas, they're not electrically heated. Therefore, electric panels wouldn't be as beneficial as solar water panels. And I've got a friend in the industry called Douglas, and he has a company called Hot Solar Water that heats swimming pools. Because in the winter, you might think living in a hot country, yeah, but in the winter, the swimming pools do get cold, but it's a nice 15 or 20 degrees outside in the daytime. But because of the climatic conditions at night, the pool drops in temperature constantly. And by having solar water heating systems, you are able to maintain a reasonable temperature throughout the winter. And also you're able to use that energy that's being produced in underfloor heating systems like Eksteen's got. Anyway, you were trying to flick the camera over and you died.
Yeah, at the moment I change the camera, Ecamm kicks me out. I don't know what's going on. So what I'll do is I'll just
Okay.
do what my mother does,
Just
and
to,
basically
yeah.
show you over my shoulder. There we go.
Okay, explain the system.
Basically, this just okay. So basically, it's a manifold over here and over here with taps on it. So the bottom tap is where you set the how much open it is all the time. So basically, that regulates the flow. And this bit at the top
And that's
is to
I noticed
basically.
you've got. Sorry, we got a little bit of a delay.
Sure.
So you've got multiple pipes on there. I take it the multiple pipes are going to different areas and different locations in
Correct.
different rooms.
Yeah.
So you've got thermostatic systems in those rooms which are controlling it.
Yeah. So basically, all of this goes into different loops underneath the floor in different rooms. And then my living room, dining room has 2 separate zones, but I combine them into one set of controls. So this bit at the top are taps. They basically have like a wax in them. So when you heat up the wax, they basically they open up or close. And then these are just the controls that are the thermostats that are in the rooms. But now you can also do that with radio frequency. You don't have to have the wired stuff anymore. I have it from the previous one. And as I said, 5 years and a lot of stuff are packing up. So this packed up, which is basically the system that controls the taps. And so I'm replacing it now with the new version, which is this. And basically all it is it connects to the taps and to the thermostats, and then you can set it via apps and all that. You can control the whole thing. So I'm basically also installing something called Homey, which is a Dutch brand as well. And basically it controls everything. So I can basically use speech from either Google or from Siri or from from Alexa, whatever I like, to control the heating system as well. So you can also set it to be more efficient, so that when you're out of the house, it brings it down a little bit. An hour or so before you get home, it goes up. You can also link it all in with Aircon and all those kind of things as well to make it a little bit more efficient. But part of this thing is because there's potential for metal ending up in the pipes. And you don't want those kind of things in your taps. You also have a little controller, little thing up there, which is a magnet that basically takes out the metal in the pipes. And then on this side, there, you can see that that's a system that takes out the air when necessary. This one here regulates the temperature so it doesn't get too hot or too cold. And then this system, you can basically connect it either to get your warm water from somewhere, like as you were saying, water heated, solar water heated systems, or through a system that is basically like an electric boiler. There's some of them coming online at the moment, but the stability has been a bit of a problem. It's improved a lot in the last year and a half or so. But yeah, I already have a system in place, and I'll probably replace that in about 2-3 years' time, but not now.
Yeah, I mean, the heat pump technology, this is where I think it's really beneficial, is when you're able to have heat pump technology doing this type of job, because you are able to have very good filtration systems, and it's not like a tumble dryer. It's tumble dryer is tumbling clothes and creating fluff and dust on a regular basis, and it clogs the systems. But when heat pump technology is used for heating a house and everything, it's outside where it's getting good, clean air constantly and not having to worry so much about the same problems as we have with dryers. And I think some of the heat pump technology is absolutely brilliant. I have a air conditioning unit, which is heat pump technology. And this doesn't only just supply cold in the summer, it also supplies heat in the winter. And I get somewhere in the region of a 3.5 to 4.5 calorific value. So in other words, 1 kilowatt in, and you get 3 or 4 kilowatt of energy heat out. And they are very good in this circumstance. Brilliant job. I believe you had to
There's also
rebuild the house, you said, after a fire?
yeah, we had a fire in 2019. Not so funny then. And in the process, we rebuilt I had to do the whole interior again. And then we also managed to split off a small apartment in the attic, which we also put some heat pumps in. So we've got the air coast with the heat pumps. But at the time, during COVID, it was just a bit, there was a supply issue, because what I actually wanted to put in was a heat pump system. It's from Daikin, and they have they allow you to basically do the hot water and the airco, everything, so heating and cooling and your water supply in one device that you just put on the roof or outside, like you would an airco unit. And you connect that to your system inside, so you can connect it to the warm water for your underfloor heating. You can connect that same system with these taps that I have in this system. You can also connect that with a third pipe to the cooling side of things, so you can both heat and cool your floor, which is another way of keeping things cool as climate change is going up, getting the heat up. It might be a more ingenious way to do that. And then other heat exchange systems we have in the Netherlands as well, I'm sure you get it everywhere else in the world, is ones that actually go into the ground. So you basically put pipes in the ground or drill down in the ground, and you use that kind of heat exchange, which also
Yeah,
gives you
well,
quite a stable system.
Yeah, what you're actually doing there is, for people that don't know, the deeper into the core that you go, the more calorific difference you end up with. And it's using that type of technology. It's not my forte, but I understand the basics of it. Yeah, there's so many advancements. I think something, when you talk about a trillionaire, people like Elon Musk, when you read between the lines, I think his divine plan long term is not just this Starlink that I use on a daily basis. This new heavy rocket system, everyone thinks it's just to get to the moon, get to Mars, and everything else. But I think long term, he's going to be replacing the satellites he's got with satellites with servers built into them, because servers take a lot of cooling. Well, if you can put the servers in space and actually have the the coolness being created by the vacuum of space. And then you only need a small amount of electricity to run the servers. And I believe that because the difference in what a solar panel produces on Earth to what it produces in space is vastly different, and I don't know the numbers, but he would then be able to put a reasonable array on each satellite, and they would be powering the server and the comms, which beam all this data down to Earth. I think that's the long-term way that he's thinking for his next trillion, if he decides he wants more, as most conglomerates in the world seem to do. They just want more for some unknown reason. If I had that much money, I'd be sat on a beach enjoying life.
Or it might be mining the moon. We don't know, or the asteroid belt. There's
Well,
quite a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of things that are
We,
possible.
I don't think meager people like us are in the need to know basis.
Yeah, probably not. No, probably not. Talking about that, I watched a YouTube video last night called, it's a channel called Dust that does all these sci-fi things, and they built a planet to basically house a server, or basically a computer, based on this idea of solar technology and cooling and things like that, and in outer space. So it's quite interesting that you're bringing it up today.
Yeah, well, I mean, what scares me about the world today is when you look at things like, and someone will have to tell me the name of the film series with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh
Terminator.
God, the Terminator. I mean, when you look at Terminator and, the way the world is run by, computers and everything else, and it turns against us, you only have to look at what's happened in the last 3 to 4 years with the introduction of AI. Um, you know, it's becoming seriously scary how we look at films and we're going, wait a second, that was produced in 1990, whatever. And this is starting to look like someone's read the script. It's a scary world we live in. But I think, technology, when it comes to AI, there has been great benefits when it comes to them being able to look at people's charts and everything else and diagnose problems, because AI doesn't get tired. It's able to look at every X-ray, every MRI scan, and everything else. And when a doctor might accidentally make a mistake because he's underpaid, overworked, uh, the AI doesn't seem to make the same mistakes and looks at things very differently.
I think what's fun about, I mean, that's sort of neural networking side of AI, is that it's not just the tired. The AI is trained on tens of thousands, or sometimes millions of images. And so there are subtle differences that it can pick up that most doctors would not have seen. So it has a benefit in that way as well. But on the large language model side, we just need to be careful to give it more credence than it needs. It's there to please and answer questions in a way that that it pleases you, on the one side, and on the other side, it is the sort of average of human endeavor and knowledge. So sometimes the average doesn't get it right.
And I think very much so. After you sending the original question in, and then sending the WhatsApp telephone number to get help off me with my with appliance help, and after you using AI to try and diagnose a problem, because either the prompting wasn't correct, in other words, meaning you didn't ask it the correct questions, or you gave it slightly incorrect information, it had a tendency to, what I call, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it sounds like you're much more advanced on this stuff than I am. It was hallucinating slightly. So it was trying to satisfy the user because it didn't have the answer for you correctly. Am I correct in assuming that?
I think there's a I think there's a combination there. On the one hand, yes, the hallucination and trying to please and trying to give an answer, even though there was no right answer on the icon, it tried to interpret it. That's one side of it. The other side of it is companies like Bosch and Siemens don't make a lot of information available online. So I couldn't find a service manual, no matter how much I tried. So they need to try and figure out something, and the AI brings a lot of different things from different models together that it might cobble together. And yes, it's going to make mistakes. I tell my mum these days, if you want to consider AI to be somebody you want to talk to, remember it's a 12-year-old kid. It's really there. It's really trying to please you, and it's going to give you anything it can to keep you happy. Doesn't mean it's right.
Well, there's one thing I picked up out of all that which really does prove a point. Not only do manufacturers need to supply, same as they said at the beginning of the show with the new European legislation, not only should manufacturers be accountable to produce parts for 10 years after production, and the parts should be affordable. Manufacturers, because not everyone can afford to have an engineer come to their house. YouTube is becoming the Encyclopedia Britannica for information on all things. I found out how to fix my problem I had with the van because I did a bit of research and I saw some great ideas and I implemented them. But if manufacturers are not giving out the technical information on what the reading should be on a NTC sensor, where the NTC sensor is located in a refrigerator because they encapsulate it inside the foam, yeah, which you've got no chance of changing whatsoever because that NTC sensor has been deliberately put in and then the foam injection is done after. So unless an engineer knows where to cut that cabinet precisely to gain access to that NTC sensor, it can't be replaced. And I think manufacturers need to be held accountable that they should not only produce machines which go back to a reasonable period of time in lifespan, but they should also be providing and forced to provide the information to the general public. Wiring diagrams and workshop manuals should be available to all. And this is because society has changed. And we used to call the local repairman. He doesn't have a business anymore because the manufacturers have managed to wipe him out. Yeah, because they only want you to consume. Yeah. So if they force that to take place, they should now be held accountable to actually produce this literature for general public and the like of myself. I have secret ways of getting into Bosch, which I definitely will not disclose. And your tumble dryer, I managed to pull up some bits and pieces on. But if I actually made any of these documents public, trust me, those beep will be taking me into court and saying I'm breach of copyright or whatever else. But this is where I'm very impressed with YouTube. The community that we have of people sharing information, disclosing information, showing hacks how to fix things and how to do X, Y, and Z is really, really beneficial to the general public in the long term, and we are starting to make a difference. And if I could only convince consumers like you to not buy any appliance anymore that doesn't have a minimum of a 5-year parts and labor warranty, the power of our money will change this industry. I mark my words. I promise you this.
I think that's definitely true. What I also think is we have forgotten how to teach the next generation to take care of things. I have an apartment upstairs we rent out now, and we've had a few tenants, and every time I have to explain simple maintenance things, just how do you keep a drain clean? How do you run a cleaning cycle in a dishwasher or a washing machine? Because we rent it out fully furnished. It is important that the person that lives there can also do the small maintenance because it's contractually required. But you sometimes only notice 2 or 3 years after they've left how bad the machine might have been. So I think that's also something that we also have an educational responsibility to try and help when you're a little bit older and you've learned a few things, help the younger generations go like, hey, you don't have to throw it away, just maintain it better.
You've hit another good point here. I notice when I'm in Portugal and Spain and places like that, the educated community down there can recite you Aristotle and all famous literature and stuff like that. But if you ask them to wire a plug up, they look at you with the most like blank look. And I'm very proud of British people and Northern Hemisphere Europe. We do have a much greater skill set, shall I say, and I'm not being detrimental to any country in the world. You know, we have a different skill set where we either have the guts to have a go at repairing things, or we are always wanting to learn, which means we have a slightly different brain set. So many communities would just chuck money at something with regards calling an engineer out, when sometimes this information is freely available on certain channels, and you only have to do your research correctly in the first place. And when I'm doing research on stuff now, I am finding AI finds the things that I even forgot existed. Simple little bits of history, bits of technical information, and my brain had been focusing so hard on X that I'd forgot Y. And AI is brilliant at this, but it's like all things in the world. You know, we invented the gun to go hunting, to make life easier for mankind, but yet we turn it against ourselves. When it comes to AI, it seems like the big companies, the politicians, and everything else are using this tool to turn against ourselves. Now, as you saw earlier, well, you might not have caught it because you lost the comms. I did an audio of basically the German documentation was translated into English for me by AI, and it also decided to read it to me in my own voice, which was created by AI for a dyslexic nerd like myself who has trouble reading long scripts. So for me, it's a great advantage. People need to use it more to make an independent decision, I think.
I think that I agree. That what I would caution though is, imagine, you remember, you know that old uncle that thinks he knows everything and everybody knows he's talking through his backside. Um, AI can also be that. So as long as we don't lose our critical thinking and we question stuff, I think that's one of the things we also need to remember in that. But it has found some interesting stuff for me. I've been looking for manuals and stuff. I found German manuals, but it found German manuals in Poland for me. And so they were behind Polish websites, and I managed to get it from there and translate it all the way through. So it's been an interesting journey in seeing what AI does for like an ADHD brain like mine. It's just I can go off on a deep dive on something and explore, and it's I have a conversation partner, even though I can doubt it sometimes.
So, how long since you've known you had that?
About 5 months. It's a relatively new diagnosis, and I had to then rethink a lot of things in my life. One of the things was I was doing too many things for other people that kept me busy, because every 5 seconds a new shiny object would appear because it was somebody else's crisis. And so I've resigned from 5 boards I used to serve on, and I thought my better half, what I'll do is I'll start looking at the stuff in the house and see what needs fixing, because I get a lot more enjoyment out of that.
Well, I must be honest, I'm one of the worst spies in the world. And whenever I allow someone to come onto this show or anything else I do my homework, because I want to make sure the person is going to behave in the manner which is fit for the show. So I did have a nose, I'm sorry to say, about you. And
Okay, now let's
you
hear
have a
what comes
book.
up.
You have a book,
Yes.
because, excuse me for saying this, and I have a tendency to say things. I open my mouth and engage brain later. So if I say anything incorrect, you are welcome to throw a punch this direction. But
Sure.
you're gay, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the day's long.
And yeah, no, and you've not only participated from, tell me where I'm wrong, you've not only participated in doing a very good book, which I had a quick brief sort of scan on a bio or whatever it was, which has got some good recommendations. I gave the link to Burkeye earlier, but no, I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to ask you to explain it. But I did watch one of your videos on a channel which is not active, I believe. You haven't used it for a
But there's
while, but you did quite a lot of work on there.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to it. The one is you mentioned you saw my TEDx video actually, because didn't expect that. But it's I've got a soft spot for nerds because I'm one at heart myself. So I did a TED talk on that. But I also have had a YouTube channel which I'm planning to put some new life into now that my contribution to the book's done. What I normally do is sort of like the how to repair your channel. I work more on the sort of how to repair relationship side of things. So I normally help people in corporate business or teams and leadership teams to find a new way of getting along when they've been when they've forgotten how to do that, or when the conflict has arisen a little bit too much. So, and when we talked earlier today, you heard about the book, and this is the book that's just come out. So this is the hardcover I just received this today, and
Let me
it's
just stop
basically a
you
book
there.
about. Sure.
Let me just stop you. Burkeye, have you got a link to that, mate? Did
I
I
will, I will
get
paste
that earlier to you?
I will paste in the comment, mate.
Oh, right. Okay.
And the book is about leadership teams and future readiness. And there's like 31 of us around the world that contributed to the book, each from our own specialization and from our own perspective. And that's what I liked about the book as well. I got to know 30 other people with 30 different new perspectives, 30 different ways of looking at things. And I think that's also like in this repair community, whenever we have somebody else giving us a different perspective, it helps us solve a problem that we weren't able to do on ourselves before. And so that's basically what this book is about: helping people to understand how to connect and how to build those relationships and friendships that you need to lead and to grow.
Yeah, I think since COVID, I have noticed a dramatic change in the way humans are with regards, I hate to say it, becoming more selfish and only caring about their own circumstances. And I have a friend called Gwillem in Portugal, and he's one of those people that puts posts on any political statement ever. And I always say to him, if you can help 5 individuals, your friends, and change something for them, and they do the same with 5 of their friends, we are going to make a difference and change things. Because, there's so many trolls on certain, live streams. We get them. There are trolls that they wake up with a bad head, they wake up with a problem, and they just think they need to vent that onto any channel that's saying anything about anything. And this is the great thing about YouTube is improving the experience constantly, and it's like our stream. We only allow people who are subscribers, in other words, we know who they are, um, to be able to leave comments and ask questions.
Mm.
And that's not there because I want to exclude the other people. What I'm trying to do is not have to answer the trolls or moderate the trolls. And Paul, by the way, Paul Duncan, who was helping with Ecamm earlier. Now, Paul's gay, and also we had to encourage him no end to start doing a stream on what his love is, which is pianos. And
Mm.
he really, used to come up to us in class that we do every Saturday. We do a thing with a guy called Doc Rock, and he teaches us the benefits of using certain programs, and he teaches specifically with regards Ecamm, and he's a very good speaker, although he's not everyone's cup of tea. He's the one that put a foot up my arse and said, you need to start putting the content out there and not caring about perfection. And that really did, we can't be perfect. We can only use the tools that we have. And I'm not dyslexic. I'm not able to read an auto cue or anything like that, because I'd be there turning my head constantly trying to track every word, and I'd sound like an idiot. But AI is very beneficial when it comes to things like that. But, once Paul learnt to deal with knowing that the abuse is going to happen, but don't care about it, and moderating and having people there to work with you. We can't get him off YouTube. It comes on my feed every night, this bloody piano player. It's annoying, but I just watch the way he's improved with his show and everything
Yes.
else. And, we've all got something to say, but not always having the tools to be able to say it. And I think, the advancement in technology is beneficial in certain things, but in my industry, when I see them sticking Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and gizmos on washing machines, why, oh, why? It's not needed. Are we that stupid we can't measure half a cup of blooming washing powder to put in a machine? We've got to have auto dosing systems. Or do we need the thing to tell us when we're sat in the living room, the washing machine has now finished? I mean, it's stupid. The washing machine has not changed
Well,
in the last 40 years.
you're talking the language of my better half. I'm the one that's the nerdy techie guy that wants everything with Bluetooth, everything with Wi-Fi, and everything integrated, and I want to be able to speak to it. I was told, but I also want a button. So our house has dual function and everything, buttons and voice commands.
Right. So, yeah, I think, I can't say her name because she's plugged in the corner. I even have one beginning with A in the corner of the room. So if I said something, it would trigger, and off she goes again. But, things like that. When I wake up in the morning and I'm lying in bed and I just say, X, play the radio, BBC, whatever. Yeah. It just chirps up and does it for me. I don't need to get out of bed. I don't need to walk over and press it. I can have an extra half hour lying in bed, looking at my mobile, catching up on emails, listening to the radio. I have other technology like this van. The advancement in telecommunications. I would have never, ever been able to do this show. I've live streamed in Africa, in the Sahara Desert. I have even delivered a washing machine, which I'll show you at the end of the show because I have got the snippet somewhere, of me delivering a twin tub on a camel in the middle of the desert. And I ran a whole show from the Sahara Desert. That wasn't the funny side, by the way. The funny side was, and Burkeye was there because I flew him over from Turkey to do some work. We were sat in the desert and I was doing the laundry in a twin tub. And lo and behold, a camel train comes over the sand dunes. And you've got all these Bedouin looking at me going, what the... they just couldn't believe it. What the hell's a guy washing clothing in the desert? It was worth every minute. Although the video was a complete flop because it didn't interest anyone, it was worth every minute of it to me because it was something I'm never going to do again in this life. Yeah, I will never, a matter of fact, I will never take this van to the desert ever again because of the problems that have occurred because of the locations that we went to and the road conditions. It was just, crazy. But no, technology is
One
very
thing,
beneficial. Yeah.
when it comes to vehicles in Africa, if it's not called Land Cruiser, you don't take it because that's the one thing everybody has spare parts for. That's one
Well,
side of it.
no,
The other side of it
I'm
is,
sorry. I will differ with you extremely
Mhm,
here because Burkeye's been with me as well, and we've gone up to 4,300 meters.
mhm,
Sorry, 4,100 meters. I have never seen so many Mark 1 transits, Mark 2 transits with the old York
mhm.
engines in, Mercedes, which we know in every Arabic country around the world, the Mercedes cars that they used to use for taxis, which have over 1 million miles on the clock, and they are still going because
Yeah,
companies used to build something which they had pride in and they built it to last. And yes, they sold millions of them, and the spare parts are still available. Our
yeah,
industry, when it comes to, or my industry, when it comes to appliances, they deliberately change models every year, not because they've improved the machine, because they don't want um, manufacturers starting to make patent parts for these machines at a cheaper price. They don't want the machines on the marketplace for too much of a time because they're able to do price match guarantees because they are the only people with that model of machine. Like a showroom would have a certain model of machine. It's all corrupt. But I'm glad after reading what I read at the beginning of this show, small channels now are starting to make a difference, and we are changing legislation step by step. But it's a slow
mm.
process, but we are making a difference. And I think
I
what I
think,
saw of that video that you made on, um, describe the video because I know I'll bugger it up if I actually describe it.
yeah, on my YouTube channel, I have I sort of I made some videos, of just interesting people I wanted to talk to. But the TEDx that you're referring to is, it's basically a video about how do nerds communicate and how do marketeers communicate and how do we bridge that gap. And it's sort of become my sort of a signature of what I do, building those bridges between people. And it's like repair. You if you don't learn the skills, you don't have the tools, you can't repair a relationship efficiently and effectively. I think we all need to spend some time on that, just realizing that when we build those relationships, when they get hurt, they need repair, and the repair is not that hard.
You should have been about 30 years ago when my how can I do this without, well, she might know, but not many people will know this. I got dragged into a marriage guidance thing one day, and I think I lasted about 12 minutes because I worked out in my head that she was saying one thing, he was saying another thing, and I was thinking something totally different. So I just bailed. Um, Should we say I dusted off the relationship and started a new one? It was an experience I wouldn't want to go through again. But for people that do care about each other and it's not already broken, I imagine there's a lot of things that could be analysed and looked at, and actually getting two people reading the same script off the same page rather than reading two separate scripts.
All right, I need to step in
I
right
think
now
the other thing is, it's also, yes, sure, go for it.
because if I let you, you'll talk forever. We have lots of comments coming, and I need to display them.
Oh, right.
Then you can
Okay.
about comments.
Well, look, let me wrap up with Eksteen. I got it right,
Yes,
did I? Yeah.
yes, you
I
did.
can't thank you enough for allowing me to bring you on the show. You did send me also something that you are praising, which are these new sticks that you put down your drain, which are helping to clean drains. And Burkeye will put them up. I haven't tried them yet, but they are meant to be a very, very good product. And I've actually already got some in my Amazon basket at the moment, and I'll be trying them out because at the house I have a problem with an upstairs bathroom that keeps clogging, and that's something that needs to be rectified. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show, mate. I really do appreciate it. I'm sorry to have had to do all the vetting to make sure that you weren't going to do something on the show or say something. You've conducted yourself brilliantly, and I do appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time. Thanks for giving us the time this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you for
this
having me. It
is
was great to
Eksteen,
see you.
and we've managed to rectify his non-faulty heat pump tumble dryer, which he's had for 5 years. It's a Siemens make, and the problem wasn't the machine, it was actually a customer. And, you know, shit happens. And having the guts to put your hand in the air and say it, I take my hat off to you. Okay, more people should be honest like this in the world rather than saying, you know, I've had people say all sorts about their appliances, and sometimes it's not always true. But thank you very much indeed for being on the show. I have now got to do most probably how many questions, Burkeye?
Countless.
As countless. Well, as I'm sacrificing my Friday night, where I should be in Dingle enjoying a pint.
All right,
I'm
the
going to have a
product
pint in
placement's coming.
You're going to be in on a long time. So you'll have to excuse me all smoking and drinking, but it's my show. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. Okay, thanks very much indeed, Eksteen. Let's get on with the questions, Burkeye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye. Okay, you're going to have to read these for me because they're coming up blurred on the screen.
All right, I'm gonna create a song for the product placement.
The song for the product placement. How do you mean?
For Guinness, for Superbug, whatever you want to display on the screen.
Well, look, I'm actually willing to take on a beer manufacturer to sponsor a appliance company. Now, there's got to be beers that I like. So, Sagraz, which is the Portuguese beer, don't even bother sending any application in. Superboc, you can actually build a trailer and I'll hook it up on the back of this camper. Grosh, Flip Top, Guinness, Beamish, any of you can come on board. How about that?
You perfectly described it.
You'll notice I'm drinking Guinness out of a Stella glass. Stella's only the drink for, aggressive people, I think. Okay, what's the first question, Burkeye? I can read that for a change. Ringer J3. The model number for the Bosch washer is, what was the question though?
There's no question actually. He just commented this one, and I think he was expecting to guess the question.
Right, okay. It might have been because we've been running, nearly an hour? No, an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Without going through the questions. And I do apologize, but we wanted to get a couple of things out about everything that's happened with the new EU regulations that are coming into play. And I wanted to have a chat with Eksteen about his heat pump tumble dryer, as he was so nice to come on the show. And it was a joy to have him on here. Okay, just bring up the next one. Bring up the relative ones. If we miss anyone out today, we will try and answer you tomorrow after the show. But my objective now is to get up to Dingle, because I've missed a Friday night. I'm not missing a bloody Saturday night. So next one.
All right, we actually have one more question from the email, so I'm gonna display it. All right.
Okay. You'll have to read that one, mate. I can't read that.
Appliance, Hotpoint NSWA 1043 CUK washing machine. My washing machine appears to operate correctly only on the quick wash cycle, option 9. On any other cycle, the drum does not spin. I can hear a clicking noise, but the drum does not turn. When using cycle 8, quick wash, the wash program completes normally until the final spin stage. At that point, the machine remains on 1 minute for a very long time. The drum continues to rotate slowly but does not accelerate into a full spin. Sometimes the machine eventually displays an F02 error code and the washing remains soaking wet. On other occasions, it will eventually enter the spin cycle and complete the program successfully. I have checked both the motor and the drive belt, and everything appears to be connected and in good condition. The machine is approximately 6 years old. Thank you for any advice or guidance you can provide.
I have a tendency to think this could be a software problem because these Hotpoint boards have to be programmed, and possibly somehow you may have lost some of the programming. But there's a couple of things I'd like you to check before we go down this route. Firstly, it is worth testing each of the individual water valves, because on a quick wash, it might not be using all of them. It might only be using the one valve and not using the other valves. That's a possibility. Also, do a continuity check or ohms reading on the element to make sure that the element is in good condition. I can't give you off the top of my head what the NTC sensor ohms reading should be, but if all those things are good, I'm having a tendency to point you in the direction of the program itself. Now, you might not necessarily need a new board. It might just need the programming flushed. And when I say it's like a computer. You get upgrades to software, and sometimes a program can be corrupt, and it might need reinstating or reloading into the system. But without having the machine in front of me, this is a very hard one for me to deal with. Okay, that's as good as I can do, and I'm going to keep these answers simple because Berkay has got so many and he'll be wanting overtime or something for working late.
No.
You don't need to comment on that.
It's my pleasure. No. And also, Mr. Washer Dude says, sounds like the brushes. If it's got a brush motor, it sounds like it's the carbon brushes that are failing.
Well, I haven't got the schematics up to. Yeah, well, if with the model number he gave me, I was suspecting it was one of the newer machines. But yes, a very good point. It could definitely be, if it's a brush motor, slightly, well, not slightly worn. The carbons are coming to the end of their life, and sometimes the computer board is getting a false reading of what it should have in ohms reading on the tachos and other bits and pieces, and might actually be causing an error on those cycles. On other occasions, it's not spinning at all. This means that the carbon brushes are not contacting the armature correctly. So that's a very good point, and thank you for jumping in.
And Jim says F02 is a motor fault.
F02 is a motor fault. Well, it could be indicating a problem with the motor. Thank you very much for all chipping in. This is what community is here for. You know, I get a lot of tradespeople. We had some people from Romania yesterday, New York. Where else?
We got from Thailand. We got from Serbia.
Oh, yeah.
From all around the world.
I'm still amazed where all these people are coming from to watch this ugly face. Idris, good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for joining. I hope you liked the new EU regulations that are coming into play. It's going to be very beneficial for you Europeans, but yet Britain stands outside. But I'm not going into politics. Mitchell, I can't read it all. Do you recommend gas cooker? Yeah, well, look, simplicity. I keep on about this. If you like cooking with gas, that's your baby, but keep it simple. You do not need computer boards controlling everything nowadays. You only need a simple gas thermostat with a flame safety device, which is definitely needed. Modern cookers today all have FSDs, flame safety devices, and they're to protect you if the flame blows out. I've done a couple of very in-depth videos on gas, which you will find on our channel. And believe it or not, they were videos that Google or YouTube didn't recommend for many years. I think it was 2 years, and then it exploded with people watching it. I think it's had nearly 1 million views on the one gas video. And that's because people are starting to understand that they can repair things themselves, even though certain countries you shouldn't be working on gas appliances unless you're qualified. But there are many places around the world where you're not able to always have access to proper gas certified people, and some people have a go themselves. It's not, it's something that people have to do. And I get a lot of, disgust from other engineers saying I shouldn't be producing anything to do with gas. Look, you can build a nuclear bomb if you know what you're looking for on the internet today. So explaining things in practical ways, in terms, and keeping it simple so people understand, it is down to their choice, and we shouldn't have our choices taken away from us. Okay, next one. Mr. Washer Dude. Yo. Is that it?
I think he just says hi.
Yeah. Well, look, we got to get through. Thanks very much for the comment and everything. And thank you to all of you that leave a comment on here. I really do appreciate it. But our time is also precious as well as your time. So Burkeye's only going to really bring the ones up on the screen, which I can address, because we've been running an hour and a half now already. Hi, I can't read the name, Burkeye, but I can read, hi, should I get Aircon installed? Well, it depends on, Aircon does use a lot of electricity to cool a large room, but it depends, one, if you can afford it, two, you're willing to use, the great thing about aircon, if you need it on, the sun is shining. So if you've built your property reasonably sustainable and decided to put solar panels onto the property, which, with the cost of solar today, I don't think anyone, if they have real estate area, meaning you have south or east-west facing roofs, in the northern hemisphere, that is, opposite way round in the southern hemisphere, or you have garden space which is not obstructed by trees, we should all have solar. It is not only benefiting the environment, but it is benefiting you. Next one.
All right, this one is from my country.
From where?
From Turkey.
Oh, okay. Nasılsın? I do speak a little bit of Turkish, but very poor, and most of the words I can say, I can't say on this show,
Don't
as
say
Burkeye will vouch.
Yeah, don't say other words, all right?
Hello from Turkey. When buying a washing machine, how can we tell whether it has a screw type or... Right. Firstly, it is your right when you go in a showroom to insist. There are too many salesmen out there who have not... They just sell boxes. And this is wrong. If you are in the domestic appliance showroom, you should really, and you are a salesman, you should take the time to understand your product so you are able to fulfill the customer's requirements. And whether a washing machine has a sealed drum or a splittable drum, in my opinion, is a very good thing to know anyway, because then you are going to be able to impress the customer by saying buy X instead of Y. But if you are general public, most machines have got a little bit of a gap at the bottom of the machine, and you're able to tilt the machine backwards, look underneath and look up at the drum. You will clearly see if it has got screws holding the two halves together, or, and this isn't going to be popular with the showrooms, take a Phillips screwdriver with you and take the lid off. That'll really upset them, because it is your right as general public to know whether a drum has got a splittable drum or a sealed drum. Too many manufacturers are deliberately hiding this information instead of making it public. And also, I'm going to refer you to the French indexing scores, which the French have got. And the French are getting very good. And I'm even impressed with the new German legislation that's coming in and changing the EU. They are becoming much better at making manufacturers disclose the information, and they are doing a repair index scale on their machines, meaning that when you walk into a French showroom, I don't know if you've got the video to hand, Burkai, about France, where we got kicked out of the, or I
Yeah,
got kicked out of the French
I was about to
superstore.
paste it.
Yeah, and there is a French index system, which is a very good basis for UK and the rest of Europe to follow. It's not perfect, but at least it was a move in the right direction. And they've had this for quite a few years. And I think it's really beneficial for more manufacturers to or should be forced into disclosing certain information. And a sealed drum is definitely one I would like to see, because I would like to see the end of sealed washing machine drums, because we all deserve the right to repair. Next one. Wondering if anyone has a successful story of splitting a non-splittable washing machine drum and replacing bearings successfully. There are many great videos out there. The problem is with some of the videos I've seen, I'm a nerd. So when it comes to washing machines, so I am constantly scrolling the internet looking for inspiration, ideas for next videos to make for you. There is a Ukrainian guy who is still making content, even in a war zone, and he is absolutely brilliant guy. I would, one of my dreams has been to take this camper van down to Turkey. Not only have I got multiple businesses to visit there and manufacturers, but I wanted to go round to Georgia and then Azerbaijan and then into Russia and round to Ukraine. And then the shit kicked off. And one of the reasons I wanted to go to the Ukraine was to go and meet this guy. I forget his name, but have you got the link for him, Burkai?
Yes, they can see it on the comment section. And the channel name is Master.
Okay. Let me explain. Although he's in Ukrainian, he does speak a lot of Russian. And if you go to a YouTube video and learn how to change the dubbing that goes on the video, you will be able to watch the video in your native language. It doesn't always translate perfectly, but it does a damn good job. And we're even getting videos now. Some of my videos, for example, have got auto dubbing via YouTube, and you want to hear me speaking Japanese. It's hysterical. So there are settings in YouTube that you'll have to learn about how to actually listen to foreign language videos in your native language. So that will help you out. So thanks very much for the question, Lucas. Next one. I really admire your work for the right to repair. I always try to repair the thing, but it's a dishwasher. I soldered some chip, etc. on, be it my washer dryer LG, checked no sealed drum, I cleaned. Yeah, well, basically, I think he's just thanking me for the work I do, and it's an absolute pleasure. I wish I had 1 penny for every view I had on YouTube. I'd be a very rich and comfortable person, because I've had somewhere in the region of 60, 70 million views, and 1 penny for every video or every watch would have been great, but that's not the case. When it comes to circuit board repairs, they're not complicated. The problem being is in today's world, circuitry is getting smaller and smaller, and this means it's not that easy to actually measure the resistance on certain chips, which you have to do. It's not that easy to, some of the Bosch little capacitors that they have on the circuit board are very tricky to measure. It's not only diagnosing the fault, it's having the capability of being able to do this microsurgery now that we have to do, because electronic components have got a lot smaller, and I have no chance at doing these anymore because I'm 60. You'll see the glasses on the top of my head, and that indicates I'm blind as a bat. So, you know, it is harder to fix circuit boards now than it used to be. Next one. I can't read that one, Third. Third. Sorry, that's an old employee. Burkeye.
All right, I'm gonna read it for you. Kids don't need to wire a plug these days. They're all molded now. Another thing that cannot be repaired.
Well, I think it's something that we need to start educating more in school. I mean, they have basic, I don't know what they call it, I forget the name for it, but they learn how to cook in school nowadays. Being educated in a world that's ever changing, we need to have more basic skills. And when I say basic skills, I think in schools, they should be teaching everyone to use a multimeter nowadays. Everyone should know how to wire a plug up, and they should understand the loading on things like cables, because there are many fires in certain parts of the world caused by people not understanding electricity correctly. I can give you a prime example of this. In Lisbon, for example, in the older buildings, in the winter, they have lots of fires. And this is because people see a socket and they think they can put two electric fires on that socket because it's cold and they don't have central heating systems, because the country for 10 months of the year is boiling hot, but for 2 months of the year, it really can drop down in temperature. And if you haven't got an understanding of what cables can carry before they could become unsafe, this is dangerous, and fires start, people die. And, you know, we've just done a Hotpoint video that shows how many people died from an appliance that caught fire. And it was nothing to do with overloading. It was a fault on the appliance. But it's, you know, appliances, if used incorrectly on the wrong electrical system, can cause fires. The amount of people that use a washing machine and a tumble dryer on the same spur plug in foreign countries is ludicrous. They do not understand that cable is only capable of 16 amps. And if the washing machine is on a heating program and the tumble dryer is on at the same time, you are pulling 26 amps, which means the outer casing on the wires gets hot, melts, and can even catch fire on some occasions. So that's my answer to that one. And that's Kaldar. I saw his name on a show the other day. Nice to see you here, mate. Everything fishing with Woody. That sounds like you got a YouTube channel on fishing, and one of my loves. The reason I stuck the roof rack on this van was not only, it's not a roof rack, it's an underside carrying compartment. One, I wanted to put a couple of extra solar panels to increase the wattage to 1600 watts of solar on this vehicle. But I also wanted to carry things like fishing rods, especially when I go down to Africa, because it was just amazing to see what came out of the sea. You know, some beautiful flatfish, all sorts of different eating fish. And I can't wait to go down there again this winter and spend some time answering your questions while having a beer and a fishing rod in my hand. So thanks very much for the compliment there. Much appreciated. Love watching your content. I currently work for a big retail chain and have done for 10 years. I fit cookers and ovens and white goods and plan on moving into white goods repair with my company. I hope that this industry starts to go back in that direction. And the reason I say this, manufacturers today have wiped out so many small businesses by trying to keep all the revenue to themselves. Small companies are suffering because people shop with their wallet. And this means that they are more likely to go out and buy a cheap appliance instead of getting it repaired, working in the manufacturer's favor instead of being responsible and actually trying to get something fixed. It doesn't always have to cost you money. If you do your research and even buy secondhand parts, you can keep machines going. It's about being smart, and AI is helping with this. If you've got a broken washing machine, think outside of the box. Sometimes someone is selling the same model as your machine because it has a totally different fault to yours. And sometimes you would be able to buy that machine for little as 10, £20, meaning that you can take the good working parts off that machine to repair yours, using Charlie to repair Peter, as they say. Hope that answers your question. Nice to see you here. Thanks very much for the comment and praise. Well, look, I'm not. How do I word this? Let me, you can see the question on screen. Things, a simple app being able to tell you the machine is finished. Yeah, okay, it might be useful. But when you started the machine, you knew it was going to take an hour and a half. Why not just set the timer on your mobile phone? I mean, we are only complicating machines because we are becoming lazier, and manufacturers are not only greenwashing machines, they are adding all these gizmos on, relying on you being, I'm not saying lazy, that's unfair, but relying on you wanting these extra gizmos. It is down to your choice if you buy a machine with all these apps, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and everything else. But at the end of the day, the washing machine has not really changed in the last 40 to 45 years, apart from a small amount of energy consumption and water consumption, which I will be proving later next month once I get this 1970s machine down to my workshop, so I can actually do side-by-side comparisons with calibrated meters on the electric and the water intake to prove this fact once and for all. Thanks very much for jumping on the show, Martin. Do appreciate it. Although we differ with our what we like and what we dislike. I can't read that one. I'm sorry.
All right.
It's blurred at this end.
Okay, I'm gonna read it for you. Given that many heat pump dryers have the same design flaws, refiltration, is there any benefit in choosing a pricier Hotpoint dryer over a cheaper one in terms of maintenance?
Okay, I have seen some people having success, and because they maintain the filters, they are very careful about the way they use the machine. They hoover out nearly every time that they do a load. Some people have had reasonable lifespans on the machine. The only reason I criticize the heat pump technology, because predominantly, now even Eksteen that was on the show earlier, who had a faulty, or thought he had a faulty heat pump tumble dryer, which we managed to rectify, only uses that machine 3 times a week. That is not really working the machine hard. That's the machine having an easy life. And he has had 5 years, even with the mistake he's made, using that heat pump tumble dryer. So, the Americans with the larger machines are getting some very good results. But you must remember, The American machines are nearly 900 wide and so deep and so tall compared to our conventional 600 UK and European cabinets. And you still need to create a certain amount of heat, and a certain amount of heat that has got to be created with an airflow of X. And to do this, you are ramming a lot of technology in a very small box. And the filtration systems are what suffer. And, you know, I've got other people coming on the show over the next few weeks who are in the industry, and we all speak the same language, and we all know the problems that arise out there. And we will be dedicating at least 1 or 2 shows to the heat pump, the forcing of heat pump tumble dryers on us, where we're having the right to repair removed with regards. They are banning vented and condenser tumble dryers instead of heat pump how do I say this? They are banning vented and condenser tumble dryers and forcing us only to buy heat pump dryers. And the problem with this is the technology is not proven to be reliable in the long term, and therefore we're having shit forced upon us. And it's wrong. These government officials bring out legislation. They are only looking at one side of the paper, and they have no idea what they're talking about. You try calling any engineer, and I defy you. If you want to, just ring up your local repair shop, say, I've got a heat pump tumble dryer with a problem. Will you come out and fix it? And see how many engineers say, yes, I'll take the job on. Just do that. Sorry for you engineers, because I've said that, because you're going to get a lot of phone calls. But fact of the matter being is heat pump tumble dryers are proven to fail, and they predominantly fail because of the filtration systems. End of subject. Next one. Thanks for your comment, by the way. Pedro, yeah. Will an Indeset IDC A735 drum fit into... Look, the only way you're going to find this, someone asked the question the other day, the only way you're going to find out about this is go to Indeset's website and go to Hotpoint's website. Type in those 2 model numbers in full. See what part number comes up. You're looking for a part number beginning with C or a part number beginning with J. If it is the same part number, then you know that that drum will fit. That's the only way you can do that, and that's exactly what I would have to do. But Hotpoint and Indeset, both of their websites, do show the genuine part number. And I believe this is part of new legislation that came into play, that all manufacturers now have to show the genuine part number on the websites. So that got implemented, I believe, 6 months or so, and is another move in the right direction, rather than manufacturers hiding information from us, which stops us doing our research and being able to repair the machines. Next one. Splittable or welded drum should be in the specs. Yes, I agree completely and utterly. Of course, they do not want that. Of course, they don't want this to be the case, Martin. Martin, at the end of the day, the car industry, the appliance industry, and many other industries are in disarray because they are run by corporate greedy accountants that only care for the shareholders, not the consumer. I nearly said it. It's a disgrace. And, you know, there is not enough rights out there to protect us from what is happening in this industry. And we are only able to change this industry working together as engineers and also as consumers. You can take my advice with a pinch of salt, but if we all start buying machines with a 5-year parts and labor guarantee, then we are going to force the manufacturers into producing better quality, which is not only good for you, it is good for your kids in the future when we're gone, because this world is changing so fast, it's becoming a really shit place to live. Next one. How can I check the temperature of the water? I'm not sure if my washing machine, I can't read that last bit because it's blurry. Warm the water properly? Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, Sind, I think is his name. There's two ways of doing this. Firstly, the way I would recommend to see if it is functioning correctly, and I don't know if Burkeye's got a link, is an ampage meter. And I've got one, believe it or not, in this cupboard, in the van. You know, I carry more bloody tools than I do clothing. This is an ampage meter, and it's a portable one with a UK plug fitting. By plugging this into the electrical supply, you are going to be able to then plug the washing machine into this. Now, once you start the washing machine, you will see it fill with water, and it would show you somewhere in the region of 5 to 10 watts on the actual digital display. Then it will start turning one direction and start turning the other direction once it's full of water, and you will see a different wattage varying on the display because depending on the load of clothing in the machine. So that will tell you what the motor is drawing. After about 10-15 minutes of starting a cycle, you will then see the ampage jump up from maybe 300-400 watts when the motor's turning to somewhere in the region of 2,200 watts, which is 2.2 kilowatt. And when that happens, you know the element is energized. The other way of testing it is you can put your hand on the door, but some doors do have insulated door, meaning it's double skinned, or you could pop an NTC meter reader, which I haven't got in the van to hand. I have got one on the van, but it's in the toolbox at the back. And the NTC probe will basically have a very thin wire on it that you could put inside the washing machine, and it will measure the temperature, meaning you could turn it onto a 60-degree wash, leave this thing on the outside, and you will actually accurately know what temperature the water is inside the machine. I hope that answers your question. Next one. How can I fix an LG inverter with errors, sign of a red lock key? I don't know what machine. Oh, sorry, LG. Do me a favor, Honey Show. I need some more information on this, and I'd be happy to have a phone call with you. LG, on some of their machines, they're using a direct drive motor. And the direct drive motors have had problems with the hall sensors, either built into the motor or into the circuit board. I'm not too sure the sign of the red lock key. I thought the red lock key was always on when the machine was energized, meaning that it's showing that the door is actually locked and safe to use, but I might be mistaken. The problem with LG, although I like their equipment, they are one of the companies that is very difficult, and their apps are very difficult even for the trade to be able to get any information off it to be able to assist you. So although I praise LG in one hand for having a splittable drum, I think they are atrocious at supplying technical information, because even I have trouble getting information to be able to assist customers like you. It is a disgrace, really. Samsung is exactly the same. Daewoo is exactly the same. And, you know, they're all doing splittable drums, but then they don't go and give technical information. And maybe things like this in the future, if one of the LG representatives watch it, will understand how far ahead they could be above the other manufacturers if they started actually running a fair playbook. Splittable drum, affordable parts, technical information. Now general public has the chance for the right to repair. Next one, please, mate. I see unsafe electrics every single day from people doing DIY installs in their home. Yes, I think a lot of people do things unsafely, and the reason being is they don't watch enough content to do it correctly. And also, there is an awful lot of content, even on YouTube, which is, I see it every day. People telling you things which are untrue. Um, and you've got to find reliable sources for the information. But if there's thousands of videos out there showing you how to wire a house up, how to wire a consumer unit up, how to wire all the bits and pieces. But you need to do a correct job, and you also need to have an understanding what you're trying to achieve, whether you need ring mains, spurs, or whatever else. People that just watch a 10-second YouTube short and then think they can do everything are mad. You can't learn anything off short videos. This is why it took me 20 years on YouTube to get up to 300,000 subscribers. It was People didn't watch my videos because they liked my ugly face. They watched my videos because I gave them the correct answers and made videos very long and very boring. And a certain amount of people would click on it and go, this guy's not getting to the point. Well, I'm sorry. If you want to learn something, you've got to delegate the time to learn it. You're not going to learn squat shit off bloody watching 30-second shorts and thinking you know everything. So, yeah, thanks everything fishing. I really do appreciate you bringing that up. Next one. How many are there to go?
Just a bit more.
Okay, right. Question, what do you think of my Hotpoint? Ultima WMD, bought it for £10, managed to repair it. Now up and running. Luckily, I found the drum and new spider altogether on eBay, 38 quid. Brilliant. Mr. Washer Dude, if I had a hat, 1 second, I would take it off to you. That is the way to go about things. You have seen that you've got a washing machine that you bought for £10. You have been a clever cookie and looked by the model number or part number. You have made the effort of going to Facebook Marketplace, eBay, and other shopping channels to see if anyone with too much money has just thrown out their old machine and thought, I'll stick it on eBay for 30 quid. Yeah. And you've managed to build a whole washing machine for £48. My hat goes off to you. One thing to look at for buying a new washing machine is the E button for Eco, but for extra wash. Well, I'm not too sure what you're meaning there.
I need to step in. He says not for eco, but for extra water.
Yeah, well, extra water. Look, I actually think washing machines now are using too little water because it's causing problems because we are washing at lower temperatures. Washing at lower temperatures is causing solidification in the drums, meaning that drums are starting to smell. They're starting to line up with crud. Heater systems aren't working efficiently because of it. Clothes are coming out with smells on them because bacteria is growing in the machine. Mold is appearing everywhere, bad smells and everything else. We used to wash with a lot more water. The wash cycle, the rinse cycle, and everything else worked perfectly. And in countries like the UK, Germany, Holland, and the whole of Scandinavia, we got abundance of water. Why can't we tap into this water that it comes from the sky every damn day? Why do, I understand countries like Spain, Portugal, Greece who have water shortages and everything else, but certain things are beneficial to them, but not to us. We need to start having machines which are modular. meaning that we can program these machines for our climate and conditions. And if we want less water being used, there should be a button on the programming, which you're saying here, to use extra water. Or if you're in a hot country, you want to be environmental friendly, you have a button on it which actually reduces the water. It's logic. It's not complicated, but the manufacturers make it that way. Next one. Mr. Washer Dude, if you want to check if your washing machine is warming the water properly, always hook up a voltage wattage me so I can see what's pulling. Excellent. That's what I said. Use one of these babies. They cost 10 quid. Yeah, and I'm sure Burkeye's got a link, and it might be an affiliate link, but I've got to earn a couple of quid occasionally for running 2 hours, 20 minutes, because I've got to pay Burkeye. And he, you know, I'm a techophobe, so I've got no idea how to run half of this equipment. Pedro, like I mentioned to someone this week, with Apple, you are basically, I can't read that word.
Renting.
Ranting, hence not buying it. Well, I'm sorry, I use Apple and I converted to Apple for one reason. When editing videos, live streaming, or doing anything with lots of processing power, I converted. And I converted to Apple because I used to make a video for you on how to repair, let's just say, a washing machine. And it was an hour-long video because it's one of my boring ones that no one wants to watch. And it could take half a day to render. And when I say render, once you've done all the editing and cut all the pieces and everything, you've got a button on editing software which renders. And this means it turns it into a single video with all the transitions and all the other bits and pieces. And it could take 5-6 hours. And that meant I couldn't use that computer at all because all the processing power was being used for that purpose. With Mac, Apple, sorry, I use a Mac, which is part of the Apple group. Christ, I press a button. I've done 2 videos for you today, plus all the prep work for this show. I have not stopped all day, and I'm really impressed with it. I don't like any of these owners of the companies, don't get me wrong, but I do like technology when it works correctly. Next one. How can I make my washing machine to run continuously when I load it heavy? Look, the longest cycle on the machine will be a hot wash, but it might not be suitable for the clothing you wash. If you're not happy with the wash format, you know, when I have stuff that's badly soiled or badly stained, I might put it in a bucket of water and leave it soak overnight with the detergent and then introduce it into the machine the next day. That's one way of trying to get a long soak on the machine. Some machines years ago used to have a button which was called a soak button, and I forget which machines, and they were really beneficial because you could let the machine start with the soak button on. It would heat the water and stop and just sit there. And then it was like a crease guard button. A crease guard button goes all the way through the cycle until it comes to the final spin, but leaves the clothes soaking in water until you release the crease guard button, and then it will go into empty and final spin. Some things have been taken away from us and other things implemented, but they were a couple of good features on the earlier machines which have disappeared now, which is a shame. But anyway, next one.
Next one is a
Thank you,
follow-up.
Honey Show.
Next
Honey Show, sorry.
Yeah, next one has a follow-up.
Sorry?
Next one has a follow-up comment. I will display both.
Okay, you'll have to remind me what the original comment was because I can't see everything. Washer Lad, is it? 2013. Hey, how to repair. I recently seen my video on downfall of Hotpoint, and I sure will say they have gone downhill. I found a Hotpoint on the street a few days ago with collapsed bear. Oh, you're the guy that is the one I admire, who managed to get the whole machine up and running, fully working for 46 quid, including the machine. I take my hat off. It was only 2.5 years old. Yeah, well, look, I see machines on a regular basis. You know, I have a few companies, RDS, and a few companies in South Wales who I go up to and I give them 20, 30 quid for the old machines because they've saved me old machines with good cabinets for me to make videos to help you. Out of buying 10, I normally fix at least 4 or 5, and I didn't buy them for the point of repairing them. I bought them to make the videos on how to dismantle them because I knew they were terminal. I have seen baby socks in the Sumpos. I have seen a 10 pence piece jammed in the pump. I have seen a washing machine thrown out because someone had pulled the cable and it had ripped the wire off the electronic filter entering the machine, so it had no power. We are a race of people today that just replace because it's easy. You know, I keep ranting on about this, but half the problems are because of naivety, and we just, you know, in some cases, I think we have far too much money to be able to go out and buy a new machine. You do not see countries who have a totally different financial system to the UK, even European countries. People don't believe that the average wage in France is around 1,200 euros per month. In Portugal, it can be somewhere in the region of 800 to 900 euros per month. Don't quote me exactly. What I mean is the people in England on 30 grand a year or 40 grand a year just go and chuck a washing machine away because it's broken down. Trust me, if you were in one of those other countries and you were paid wages like that, you would have a go at repairing. And this is the problem with the world. We've become a throwaway culture. Mr. Washer Dude, by the way, that's a different machine. That's not me. Oh, sorry about that, mate. I thought it was you. You got to remember, I sit here all day, or not all day, for too many hours a day, and I'm looking at the screen, and it's just one after the other. And I can't believe we're doing another 2.5 hour stream. Hi, what do you mean about Samsung models, washing machines and dryer? What do you mean about? I don't understand the question here, Burka. Am I missing something?
I think it says, what do you think about these machines?
Oh, what do you think about these machines? Look, top of my head, I think Samsung is a reasonable make. It has a splittable drum. They are either using direct drive motors or they're using inverter motors. Some of the older machines had brush motors. The two major problems I see across the board happening in the appliance industry is they are starting to get a bad reputation for their spiders corroding. And this could either be electrolysis, poor aluminium on the machine, or they have built them that way not to last, although they have a splittable drum. And the other problem I see a lot is circuit board problems. But this is only from customers contacting me. I haven't, you know, I go by what I see in questions and everything else. So I can only answer fairly. And, you know, I've done quite a few videos on Samsung, LGs, and I will be doing a lot more videos. But, you know, you've got to remember there's a lot of machines out there and there's only so many hours in the day. And I'm basically here to help you rectify problems. Sometimes it would be irresponsible of me to, like, you've given me a model number here followed by a different model number. I haven't done the research on it, so I can't just pull this off the top of my head. I would be very unfair, not only to you, but also the manufacturer. Apple, unfortunately, is the most against repairability. Look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I am still willing to sacrifice. Windows and the normal conventional computer just took too long for my workflow. Yes, I know Apple were really naughty with regards having individual cables for X, Y, and Z, but I don't treat a computer as something which is a luxury or anything else. And Burkeye will tell you, Jamil will tell you, who work with me, they can't believe that I have a £2,500 laptop, which I treat the way I treat it. It's got marks all over it. It goes into a rough area of where I'm working.
Can I step in
I've
right
been
now?
known to plonk. Yeah, you can give your 5 pence or.
He uses his laptop like a racehorse. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, okay. I take it into some harsh environments. I've taken it out on the motorbike into the desert to see if my files were correct while it's being sandblasted. It's a tool. It's there to do a job. Do I make money from the tool? Yes. I am willing to. It's the best tool I've had so far. I don't like their politics. I don't like Starlink's politics. But if they build good shit, I will buy it. End of subject. Next one.
Thanks for the confession. Now I need a new laptop from you.
Go back in your corner. Martin, no, that's the same question, isn't it? Yeah. You'll have to excuse me smoking and drinking. This is my time, my show. If I'm going to sit here 2 hours, 2.5 hours answering questions for you lot, I do what I do, and I'm sorry. I apologize if you take offense, but you don't have to watch it. I have seen someone throw out a 6-year-old Samsung just from a popped fuse. Well, normally fuses go for a reason, so we need to know why the fuse went. I mean, I have seen fuses fail because the fuse itself was faulty. Or I presume that I couldn't find any fault with the machine. It does happen occasionally. Some people may not have much knowledge on these things, but even your videos couldn't have kept that machine running. Yeah, well, I mean, I could. As a matter of fact, I have done a video on how to wire a plug, and it was quite popular. I did a how to wire a UK plug and how to wire a European plug. People said, why the hell did I make that video? Because there are people that throw the washing machine out that's only got a blown fuse. That's the basic answer. Next one. My parents had a Polar automatic washing machine for 20 years. Polar. The name rings a bell, but I can't. Which country was that from? I'd be very interesting. What's the name on there?
Corolla.
Corolla. I'd love to know which country you're from, because I can't remember Polar in the UK. I might be wrong, but I've been about, well, too bloody long. But it's not a name I'm familiar with. But, look, any machine that is 30, 40 years old, and that machine is 24 years old, they were built to last. Before the greed and the corruption in the world started, they were built to last. Now, manufacturers don't care about their reputation. They hide behind brands, because one manufacturer may own 10 to 20 brands, and they hide behind it to con you. And this is all wrong. This is another thing that should be on the new type Right to Repair Act, which should state the main manufacturer of a brand. So if you're going into a showroom, it should say, this is made by Bosch Group. This is made by Electrolux Group. Even if it's a Siemens or even if it's a Zanussi, it should state clearly which company put it together. I can't read that one, this blurry screen, and it's not the Guinness.
All right. Again from Carola. So, submittable drum should be the first thing to check before purchasing a new washing machine. Cheers and thanks a million for the channel.
Thank you very much for the compliment. Look, yeah, it's not rocket science. And you know when you go and buy a car and you go into the showroom and you look at the car and you sit in the seat and you think, great. If you ask the car showman, can you open the hood so I can have a look under the hood? They'll do it automatically. It's your right. Why can't you do that in a showroom that sells domestic appliances? Huh? It's pretty logical, really. Next one. How can I start up a washing machine that runs on 110 volt rather than... You'll have to have a converter, basically. There are some American washing machines on a commercial basis, like the Maytags, the Speed Queens, which were sold in the UK. And you open it up and they've got a transformer which converts the 110 voltage to 220 volt, because you're in Europe. You will be able to get online, if you go to Amazon, somewhere like that, and type in converter or transformer from 220 to 110. I'll tell you what you will find that will do the job very well. A lot of building tools in the UK and Europe are running on 110, and they're called a transformer, and it's a yellow box. It'll have a different plug on it, but you'll be able to change the plug over to the 3-pin round rather than using the conventional European plug or the conventional UK plug. And you'll find these things on eBay and Amazon very cheaply. Polar is an old brand from 1980s Poland. Now it's branded Good Black Stuff. And now branded it. Can you read that to me?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but engineered, something like that.
Is he meaning engineered?
Maybe.
Branded engineered? I don't know. Poland, I didn't know the make, I must be honest, and it's a country I've only been into once when I was a very young man. It's a place I'd like to go and see again, because the Polish economy is meant to be doing very well nowadays. And this is why so many Poles used to work in Britain and then went back to Poland, because they were paid a better wage in Poland and a better lifestyle than living in the UK. But that's going down the political route. Exactly. Greetings from Estonia. I do not have stupid money. Plus, I only have room for certain washing machines. Yeah, well, look, at the end of the day, as long as you do your research, buy simple, buy basic, buy repairable, and always buy with a 5-year guarantee. You know, we will change the world slowly but surely if we use our money to change it. And it's the only way these companies are listening nowadays is the money, because the accountants run the show, not the engineers. And these accountants are only responsible to the shareholders. Next one. Right, I'm going to the fridge. Read it to me. Okay? Can you read it to me?
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, no, I can read it now. Sorry. I went to the fridge and back to get another beer. Hi, you had videos about drum of Czech Republic. We have somebody is doing only cut change bearings. I can't read all that. Just
I was going
quickly
to
read
read
the
it.
last bit.
I'm gonna start from beginning. All right. Hi, you have videos about
Okay.
drums. At Czech Republic, we have somebody. He is doing only cut, change bearing, cool it with the same material.
Yeah, I know of some Serbian people that Berkay and myself have spoken to, who have done a lot of these uh, sealed drums. They are really doing a fantastic job. I have seen everything from using an angle grinder to cut the drum. I have seen axle blades used to cut the drum. And I saw one clever guy who made what you call a hot knife, which was out of a long piece of wire. And basically, a hot knife is where you stick an electrical circuit through a piece of wire and it becomes red hot. And they managed to do a perfectly good cut all the way around the drum in 2 goes, therefore splitting the drum perfectly with a good melted edge. This meant that they were able then to reassemble the machine after, popping a couple of support screws in and using a very good silica or silicon, which is a contact adhesive, to actually seal the tub up. And they did a cracking job. The reason it's not done in the UK and Germany and other places is labor is very expensive. So if a guy's willing to spend a whole day to do a machine like that, I take my hat off. But in the UK, you could have gone to work for an extra 4 or 5 hours and nearly achieved the same money to buy a new machine, or at least buy the part. So we are lazy because of our what time is worth. I think I explained that correctly. No, they were forced, and I can't read that bit.
They were first forced and scared out with Brexit.
Yeah,
He's
well,
talking about Polish people who were working in the UK, I guess.
you know, I find it. I'm old, so I remember a lot of history. And after World War II, the Poles that sacrificed their lives to defend Britain were then asked to leave. You know, the problem is with all our politics today is we'll change it to suit, or the governments will change it to suit themselves, and it's wrong. I've had a business shut down by the UK government because I was exporting hundreds of machines per year to Portugal, which I made videos on how to repair the machine. I then sold the machines to the local community in Portugal, supplying a service. But when Brexit came in, it became such a nightmare that I couldn't continue the business. But I'm not going to run back into politics. Um, it's a horrid world we live in. Can't read the name, sorry.
Perpetual.
Perpetual. No, read the whole thing to us, mate. The black has gone blurry.
No one even has a
And this is
5 years guarantee. They may sell you an insurance policy like Miele that costs a few €100.
Yeah, well, look, insurance policies are a con in themselves. And I don't mean the insurance company is conning you. They are charging you £4 to £6 a month for the insurance policy. But if we multiply that by 12, let's look at £50. So you buy a machine that only comes with a 12-month warranty, and you want the equivalent warranty to a 5-year machine. You are going to pay 4 years of a premium at, say, £50 per year. That's £200 that could have gone into buying a better machine. If we use our money correctly, and I keep saying this, but and I will say it until the day I die, if we use our money correctly and only buy off manufacturers with a minimum of 5 years as of today, we are going to change the industry, because the companies that are conning you most by only giving a 12-month guarantee will lose market share. If they lose market share, they will pull their socks up and start producing better machines with a longer warranty. End of subject. Next one.
Yes, end of subject. You can call it a day if you want.
Thank Christ for that. Right. Well, that's got to be an all-time record. Burkeye, firstly, I would like to thank you. I know we've had a guest on today, and I know it's it's near 10 o'clock your time, isn't it?
Yeah, mate, and I also missed the date. Thank you for that.
I missed a date. What's she like?
Ah,
Pictures, please.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm not gonna go into details. All right. Okay.
Okay. Well, look, if the Turkish girl that was going on a date with Burkay this evening, if you want to point a finger and say to anyone, this is not fair, it's my fault, and I fully apologize. And when I come to Turkey later in the year, I will buy you a drink as a sorry. How about that? I can't do any more than that.
All right. I already had a screen recording. Thank you.
Right. Okay. No problem. Look, it's been a 2.5 show. Had some fantastic. Had Eksteen on. We had Mike, who really did inform me about the new legislation coming in, which you'll be able to hear about in the replay of this video once it's. What's the word for it when it finishes the live stream and then becomes an actual video?
Uh, like a
There's a word for it. I can't remember. Anyway, after a while, you'll be able to watch this video in full HD quality, and you'll be able to hear me talking about the legislation that has just come out in Europe, and it is an improvement, and we are going the right direction. What we need to do now is put a foot up our bloody politicians in the UK and get the same type of implementation put in place here, because we are being ripped off more than any other country in Europe because of our politics and also what the manufacturers can get away with. If you would like any help with your appliance, as I say at the end of each show, please make sure you give us your full model number, including the make of the machine, and this is off the identification label, and take 10 minutes to describe the fault properly. If you find it easier, it is better for you to actually get your mobile phone, stand in front of the machine, just talk about the problem that you have, give me an email with your make and model number, and send me the link to that video. I will quite happily watch it and quite happily come back to you either with a video response, or I might even include it on the show. If you do want it included on the show, I do need your written permission to say that I can use the video and it is copyright free for me to use. Otherwise, we're in breach of YouTube policies. I'm here to help you at the end of the day. So is Burkay, and so is Jamil, who runs the appliance side. We are a small family company. I call it family because that's the way I treat them nowadays. They get the same shit off me as anyone else does. But I mean it in the right way. And we also have all our partners throughout Ireland and also the UK. These partners are supporting the Right to Repair Act, and they're dismantling machines correctly, meaning that if they've got good working parts that are able to be used, they are selling the parts on the website to help improve the right to repair. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Have a great evening all. I'm going to enjoy a few more Guinnesses as I have sacrificed today, and I'm not in Dingle, but I will be in Dingle tomorrow, enjoying a few beers in between. Take care. Thanks very much indeed for watching.
Before you go, Paul, before you go, first
Another
of
one?
all, thank you. I feel the same. Second of all, Martin says I sent you a video. It's about the washing machine, I guess, and it costs 1,000 euros. I need to check it out later, after the show.
Okay, well, it'll be tomorrow for me now. I've had 2 tins of Guinness, and I've got to do dinner and everything else, and I'm just going to stick a movie on because I've been doing appliances from start to finish. I made a video today and yesterday on doing a repair on a CV joint on this van because it had split. I found another video that I should have finished when I was in Portugal, but because I was rushing because of a 90-day ruling, I had to get out of Europe, so I forgot to finish the video, which I've done today. And I've also got a load of video footage for you of my trip, which I've also got to download and edit, which is 360 camera view of the road as we drive up this wild Atlantic way in Ireland. And it has absolutely been a pleasure to come here. The people are great, the hospitality is great, but I haven't had a massive night out yet. I had a great night in Sneem, I think it was called, in the Bull there. Met some great people, and they looked after us no end. So yeah, I got a lot more content to create, and I got to try and stream every day. So thanks very much indeed for watching. Take care. Have a great evening. Bye all.